Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 ASMR. This is the 4th time I've tried recording this video. The first time I got about halfway through my facts, and then I was interrupted. Yay! And then the second time, my dogs kept barking. The third time, I had dogs barking. And the fourth time, I had let the dogs out. And this was out throughout the day. So it's finally almost 11 p.m. I'm going to try to record this. So, now today's video is quite exciting. I'm doing a true crime type of video. So, a couple weeks ago, I asked you guys during a Q&A if you guys would want to see true crime. Surprising amount of you said yes. And I thought, I've been seeing a lot of this on ASMR artist channels, so why not give it my shot? So, I have my water because I feel this will be a little bit of a long-winded video. And we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So, the first person to make our list of true crime cold cases is going to be Octavia Hatcher. Now, if you live or you know of Pikeville, Kentucky, you may have heard of Octavia Hatcher. It's because she's quite famous, and not for a good thing. Now, Octavia Hatcher, in 1889, she and James Hatcher married, so she became a Hatcher. None of the sites I found told me what her maiden name was, and I'll link all my sources below. But she married James in 1889. I'm looking at my notes to make sure. And 2 years later, in 1891, she gave birth to Jacob Hatcher. Now, Jacob Hatcher only lived a few days. I never was able to pinpoint how many, but it was in the same month, within a few days. He took ill, and then he died. And it was actually really common back then. I found a lot of research, and kind of known facts, is that in the 1800s, diseases that are curable today were quite fatal back then. So, after Jacob's death, he was buried, and then Octavia took very depressed, normal for a mother who lost her baby. And it wasn't soon after that she fell ill as well. And it seemed that she was falling to the same sickness that Jacob had fallen to. And within a few days, she had slipped into a coma. So, she was, they never pinpointed how long she was in the coma, but the doctors and her pinpointed who the doctors were. A lot of this stuff is very unknown. I really want to dig and find out these things, but her breathing was so shallow. This is what I don't get. It may have just been because the 1800s doctors, but her breathing was so shallow that they went ahead and pronounced her dead. She was still breathing, but it was so shallow that they went ahead and pronounced her dead, and they wasted no time. Because apparently the spring of that year, I think it was 1891, in May. So Jacob died in January, and in May she died. So about 4-ish months. And when she died, the spring was quite humid and hot, more than it said the most springs they had. So they took no time, they buried her, didn't embalm her, because embalming wasn't really important back then apparently. That's what I'm getting from it. But then, after she was embalmed, it wasn't but days later that more people in the community of Pikeville began to fall ill and took the same symptoms she had. And they flipped into comas as well. Now, what I found was that they began waking up a few days after falling into the coma. And it was some kind of fly disease. A fly was making them have a sleep sickness. And so James and the doctors and his family all became very suspicious. So they went and right away, didn't say how many days, but right away they went and dug her up. And what they had found was, and this is why I'm gonna get y'all also, the casket, it's a wooden casket, 1800s, was not sealed completely. So she was found, this is where it gets really bad. If you're a younger viewer, I don't know, maybe watch with caution. She was found with like this frozen, horrified face, like look on her face, and her nails were down to the brittle, bloody, because she had tried to claw at the word that faces her, and she tried to claw at it to get out because she woke up and she was still breathing because they hadn't closed it airtight. And what I assume is if they would have closed it airtight, she would have went ahead and suffocated in her sleep, but I'm not sure. Anyways, so she went, they reburied her, and a year after her burial, James had this life-size statue. Now, this is the picture of the statue, and I didn't take this photo because I didn't want to, I guess, go into the graveyard and defecate, or how do you say it? You know, disrespect the grave. So I didn't go and take the photo myself, but this is what I found on Google. And so that was a statue of her, and I also put a picture of her. The resemblance is quite uncanny, and the statue, I think the photo I put up has the arm broken off. So this is where it gets weird. So after he built the statue, he placed it upon her grave, he also built the Hotel James Hatcher. Now this sat at such an angle that he could look up into the cemetery and see her statue from his office. And a fun fact, years, I don't remember, I don't think it ever said, no it didn't, but in its place today, the Pikeville Expedition Center, the Expo Center, is what sits there. And it's really neat. They say, I haven't tried it personally, I went to the cemetery before though, I've drove by it, but they say though that you can go to the Expo Center at a certain spot, you can look up and see her statue, but I haven't tried it, I've never bothered. So in the 1900s, so this is after her death, into the 1900s, there was a lot of vandalism going on from the Pikeville College with her statue, and eventually her arm was broken off. The arm that cradles the baby, it was broken off at the elbow. And when it fell right onto Jacob's grave, and it's still in that same spot today. So the Hatcher family in the 1990s had a fence placed around it, around the grave, so no one could ever access it. And so that was where the Hatcher family had stopped having any access to it. They never figured going any farther. But, you know, to this day, there are cases I found, people report it, I think 3 or 4 cases I already found people reporting, they're hearing cries of a kitten and the cries of a woman coming from the direction of the cemetery. And so people would go and investigate all these different things. I never wrote them down, but like people would go in there and they would look and they wouldn't find anyone there. So another thing that's really creepy is that there's a legend that on the anniversary of Octavia's death, which is May 2nd, which is coming up pretty soon, her statue will literally turn around and turn her back on the city of Pikeville, I guess, and because they left her to die buried alive, or maybe because of the vandalism, I'm not sure, but after they had put the fence around it, reports said she stopped turning, so maybe it was college kids, maybe the statue moves, I'm not sure. But you know, there was an interesting fact. So when she died, after she had died, James made a casket in his hotel, in the what's it called, lobby. There was a casket he had specially built, and it had all these weird things on it, but it was specially built so that when he died, he couldn't be buried alive. It was to make sure that if he was buried, he died when he was buried. So I was really intrigued by that. And another interesting fact I found was the Daily Review out of Decatur, Illinois. If any of you guys are from Decatur, Illinois. In 1892, a report stated, and I'll read it here, the most unique tombstone known in this section was shipped from the city. It is a statue of the late Mrs. James Hatcher, the deceased wife of a Pikeville, Kentucky banker. It is in marble and is the exact height of the deceased and is a perfect likeness of her, a cabinet photograph having been used as a model. In the right hand is a parasol, the handle having an immense ring. Even the fashion of the dress is copied. So, I couldn't find the picture of her that the statue was modeled after, but like I said, I already showed you a photo of her. I don't think I showed it, but here's a picture of James. So you can have that. So, that's actually, I mean, here's my theory. With this, I don't personally think that her statue turns around, but I do think there are some missing loops to do with, you know, was she buried alive on purpose? Because I understand that back in the 1800s, pronouncing someone dead may have been different, but if her breathing was shallow, why did they bury her? Why did they pronounce her dead? That's what I'm curious about. And why, if these people were waking up within days, why didn't she wake up within days? Did she, or was it only a day or so before they pronounced her dead? Like, why do they do it so soon? That's my concern. Yeah, so this has been a fun little episode of a little segment of true crime cold cases. This is a short one, just to be getting a feel for what I'm doing with this and see if you guys really enjoy it. But until next time, remember you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and you're loved. Bye, guys.